Welcome back to the channel, and to each a good day. And what we're going to take advantage of, and depending on the order you're watching these videos in, what you're seeing right now is that we're also in the process of upgrading from factory halogens to factory HIDs, but that'll be in a different video. It may go up before the one you're watching now or after. I'm not sure of the order yet, but while we have the front fascia off, we're going to take advantage of the situation and be able to get easier access to this hood latch. And the reason why we want to do that is we want to do to this vehicle like we've done to all of our Ram and all of our, actually I should say all of our other Dodge products thus far, and that is enable factory remote start. Now, in order to do that, and to do that safely, there's a couple of different ways you can do it, but we're going to do it the factory way, and with the factory safety mechanisms in mind. And right now we have a standard hood latch, and you'll notice there's no electrical connection on this hood latch, and unfortunately, like the Rams were set up, the wiring is also not here as well. So there's two things we need to do while we have access to the behind the fascia, and that's one, replace that hood latch with a factory one that has the electrical connection on the side of it. And then we have to run an electrical connection into the cabin area and run that into a pin on the body control module. So it's a little bit more in depth on this one as far as enabling factory remote start, because we just don't have that existing factory wiring run for us. But we're going to take advantage of this being a pursuit charger, meaning we've got the ability, if you remember from a previous video in this series, this is a 12-pin diagram that you're looking at, and where this pinout comes out at is right inside the center console, and I'll show you that here in a second. Now, what we're looking for is the bottom pins 7 through 12, because where does 7 through 12 terminate? Show you. If you remember from a previous video, there's a wiring harness, a factory wiring harness that's already run to the inside of the vehicle. Now, they were using some wires out of here to run some bar lights on the bullnose bumper, and we went ahead and just wrapped them up temporarily. But what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage, since this loom already runs in the inside of the vehicle, we're going to take advantage of that and use one of these wires to get the wire inside the cab we need that comes off of the hood latch, and basically just makes it for an easier day, so we're not trying to find a grommet or something else to push through on the vehicle. So what I've done here is, and you'll see I got a long series of alligator clips strung together because we're just testing connectivity. Don't worry, we're not doing any current draws. And what I want to do is verify, if we use this wire here, which one does that correlate to inside of that center console. Now, out here, I just picked one. They're all the same gauge wire. I'm not really concerned with a gauge of wire on here, because again, we're just using this to pass a resistance reading from that hood latch so the vehicle knows whether it's open or closed. So we're tied into what is this orange with a brown stripe out here. Now, before we go into there, I'll show you a couple part numbers. That is the hood latch. That is the replacement hood latch for this vintage of Charger, except it has the electrical connection on it. And if you're wondering if you need a pigtail for that, this one's just put out by standard. You can see it's an S824. What this is actually a fuel injector connector. This fuel injector connector is the same connector they're using on the hood latch. So you can see we're connected here. And if we go inside the vehicle, we've got our pigtail. If you remember, because this pigtail was already here, they just had some aftermarket wiring plugged into it that we've since removed. But we've got the appropriate same color code wire stripped back and ready for testing. So we're just testing continuity or connectivity, however you want to call it. So we're just set to where, I'll show you here, we should make a tone once we've got a connection. So alligator clips are connect to the wire that's going out under the hood. And if I touch, hopefully you can hear that. So that confirms that is the wire that is running, that we meet up with, that's coming out from underneath the hood. So it's going from the hood through the factory wiring harness and out to this one here. So what we're going to do when we get to this step, we're just going to splice into this wire, run it this way, run it underneath, and our body control module is actually up inside of the kick panel here. So what we'll have to do is just kind of get this glove box and everything out of the way to get easier access to it. And there's a connector that we have to pin a wire into in order to make this connection complete. So what I'm going to do first, just to show you here, I went ahead and marked this with a silver Sharpie. Let's see what you see. And we're just going to take this loose, transfer our cable over, and get our new hood latch into position. And then we're going to start to work on the wiring. And it's literally just two wires. One pin of this connector is going to go straight to ground. You know, we can ground pretty much anywhere we like as long as it's a good stable ground. We may run both wires this way and just kind of tap into one of these two existing ground studs here. And obviously the other one will get spliced in and sealed up and attached to this one here. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to get this out of here, switch it out. I'm not going to film it because there's not much to it. It's just unbolting, undoing this cable, flipping the cable over, and bolting the latch back in. Now I have marked it, but we still may need to adjust it a little bit as far as the hood alignment, but we'll get to that a bit later. And as far as this hood latch is, in case you're wondering about the cable, if you take this metal arm here the cable goes into, push this back slightly, you can see you can get some slack on it, and then you can work that cable up and out of that groove. And it just two ears you pinch together and you can get that barrel out of that latch. So I'm going to work on this and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see we got our hood latch installed, cable resecured. It's roughly in the same spot it was before. Like I said, we may have to do some adjustments on the height and positioning of this, but for now we're good. And we're just working on getting our connector wired up, or at least getting some extension wires soldered on. I'm sorry, not soldered on, but we're just using again the crimp and heat shrink with the sealant in them, just butt connectors. So that should hold quite nicely. And yes, we will get this all loomed up and looking a bit more presentable once we know which way we're going to run the things. I think what we're going to do is just kind of come underneath, follow the factory harness, and just kind of come into here where these two harnesses are already at. Looks like there's about enough room for us to squeeze another piece of loom through there. So we'll get another piece of loom squeezed through on this side and just bring it out and finish making our termination. So that's what we're going to work on next. Again, that's just a standard fuel injector connector. As you see right there, apparently it's the same connector. As you can see, I'm not going to clip it on all the way, but forgive, there's a plane going overhead, but as you can see, it's the same connector. It fits. But I'm going to continue getting this loomed up and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see we got our connector in, we got our wiring completed, we got everything wrapped up in a nice loom. Followed some existing factory harnesses and some other looms. Kind of went down around underneath into this corner. And as you probably saw us do earlier, come out of this corner. And down there at the bottom is a gray wire that's been grounded. So that's one half of this circuit or this connector. The other half is going into that wire that you saw earlier. Now right now, if I'm looking at the hood latch correctly, yeah, it's in the open position at this point. So let's go in, turn our meter on, and check what we got for connectivity. So we're going to be checking against ground, which we've got the meter to set to, and the other half of that connector, which is that wire right there, if you remember from our earlier testing. So I'm just going to go into continuity. There it is. And you can hear that beeping there. So I'm going to go out. We're going to go out now and shut the hood and see if that beeping stops. And yes, we have stopped. You can see we're reading overload, so perfect. So that hood latch and that wiring is working how we want it to. Right now it sees an open circuit, meaning it thinks the hood, it knows the hood is closed, or it's giving us the signal we need so that the BCM could later determine the hood's closed, is what I should say. And then when it's open, you can see we read connectivity and a resistance value. So what we need to do next is we're going to get this piece of trim pulled up out of here. We're going to get the glove box removed, and that will give us access to our BCM. Now we still have the battery unplugged. We've had it unplugged all this time because we've been doing outside, doing all the lighting work as well. So no better opportunity to go ahead and take care of this now. But what we need to do is get the BCM out of here, and there's a connector we need to remove and get a piece of jumper wire run to this one here, and then we're gonna have to see if we can crimp a pin similar to this one to that connector and get it seated. So let me get this out of here, which this just pulls up. We'll get the glove box out of here. We'll get prepped. We'll get the floor, get this rubberized flooring pulled back, and we'll see what we can do about getting that connector out, and I'll bring you back. So one moment. And welcome back. So you can see we have the glove box entirely removed at this point, because it makes getting to the connector that we need a bit easier. And if I'm looking at things correctly, I believe it is the upper, in this case, the upper left one. So our diagram listed as C1/A, and it's made up of 2 connectors inside this piece. It looks like it's a 24 pin and a 13 pin. And the pin that we need in this case is if we come right down here to pin 11. Let me get you in a bit closer. You notice it's either no connection or hood ajar sense switch, so except for remote start. So yeah, I'm sorry, except for remote start, then it wouldn't be a connection, and then remote starts the hood ajar switch. So there's either a wire there or there's not. Well, there shouldn't be, which means we have to add one to this pin 11, which is what we're going to try to terminate and do. Now I'll show you how well this, hopefully this goes well. I got a small selection of them, but it took a little bit of doing. We'll need to verify these are the right pins, but it took some digging to find out the correct pitch and pin to find. I was only able to find this at this company here, this EFI connection. There's a part number for you. And I was able to order, as you see, a quantity of 10 in case I have to crimp this more than once. But getting this glove box out, FYI, getting the lower glove box out is fine. You've just got this little dampener that you release. It'll be on the other side, the little dongly piece there. You take that piece out. There's 2 ears you see right here. There's one of them. You push them inward and you flip the glove box down, the whole thing will come out. To get this outer shell that the glove box sits in out, you've got your start connector that's clipped to it, so unclip that. You've got 2 screws behind this piece of trim panel here. You've got an additional fastener here, one here, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 across the top, and then another fastener here, and it's also held in by a clip that you see here, a clip here at the top, another clip there at the bottom. And what I actually had to do just to make sure I didn't break the clips was, this side came free fine. This left hand side was a bit more of a pain. I was able to get enough slack in there to get a trim removal tool in here behind it like this and just kind of pry forward to help those clips release, just so that we didn't break any plastic. But now what we've got to work on, and I'll get you a light, is that there's a body control module kind of right back there. It's very makes it a lot easier to get to if you take this lower glove box out of here. And again, like I said, it does look like it is the upper, from this point of view, upper left hand connector. So the one I'm going to touch with the flashlight right there potentially that we need to get a hold of. I see some other letters on this module, like there's the D connector, there's an F connector, and the only one that I see marked as A is the upper left hand one in this case. So we got our battery disconnected. There's a little gray release tab on that connector. You can see it right there at the top of the flashlight. There should be a little release button that you kind of have to push in and then flip that gray lever at the same time to get that to come out. Once we can get that out, we'll bring it back, we'll get the shell off, and we'll see what we need to do about getting a pin terminated for there. So one moment, I'll bring you right back. And welcome back. Well, we got our connector out. I tried to show you that hopefully it came out in the video. You kind of have to push this top pin down, pull this gray lever out of the way. That'll help unseat the connector, and you can pull it down. Now in my case, I don't have a lot of slack to deal with. I got just enough slack to get that cover off. And this cover, if you look on one of these corners, you see that little catch, a little square catch. Hopefully that's focusing in right there, and that clips to the side of this connector. And once you get this catch out of the way, this top shell piece will slide out. It may focus in or it may not. Hopefully it does. But right here on this end is a number 12 written right at the top of the plastic. So this end. Now we want pin 11, so there's going to be the pin right next to it that we need to populate. Pin 10 per our wiring diagram has nothing in it, and pin 9, out of curiosity, says, well, at least this wiring diagram says brown with a green stripe, which we do have brown with a green stripe. So we know that is our pin 10. I'm sorry, nope, pin 9. We know pin 10 isn't used. Pin 11 is the one we want to grab, and pin 12 is there on the end. This diagram says it's white with a bright brown, white with a bright green. Well, I don't really consider that white with a bright green. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Brown with a yellow. Brown with a yellow, yes. So 12 is brown with a brown with a yellow. That confirms that one. So we definitely want the pin next to it. So what I'm going to do now is get our little baggie of pins out. I'm going to get one of these out and see how well this fits into the connector. So let me take care of that and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So we're just in the process of getting these pin crimped on, and these pins do fit. They do fit that holder just fine, but they are very small. There's not a lot of room in that connector for a piece of wire, and it doesn't need to be a very thick gauge. So what I'm going to have to do is actually just use a spare pre-wired pigtail connector here, because it's got some smaller gauge wires on it, and we're just going to make ourselves a jumper. And once we get this crimped up, then we'll just use this jumper to tie into that connector that's coming inside the vehicle. But if you watched us assemble the headlight adapters, same process applies here, other than this is going to use the smallest jaws I have in this crimper. I don't want to go too far in, but just enough to ratchet to hold it. Make sure you can see what you can see. You're not sure how much you can see of that. I'm going to check my wire if that feels about right. I'm going to give it a crimp. Okay, that looks good. It looks like it grabbed the wire. going to be probably impossible for you to see because this is really small. So it grabbed, the little fins grabbed behind the insulation, the little ears on top folded forward. Now the way this goes into the connector is if the connector is, let's say, is facing us, facing front, the flat part where the locking tab is going to face front. So this should slide down and then clip in. It did bend that connector slightly. There you go. So I just want to straighten it up. So we got a nice firm grab, which is good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get you set up, bring you back, and see if I can get a shot of putting this connector in. Like I said, this is some small stuff. One moment. And welcome back. Hopefully that's focusing in okay. So you saw us crimp what we're going to use as the pigtail. And we've got our connector here. We know we want to go into pin 11. So I'm just going to orient our pin and see if we can get it down inside of where it needs to go. There we go. Now it's sliding in. Oh, got it. You probably didn't hear that. It was a very faint click, but you can see that we now have a pin and number 11. Perfect. So I'm actually going to ohm check that real quick. It looks like it's all the way down. I'm going to double check and make sure that's all the way in before we put this back together. So I'm going to put a voltmeter on that. I'm just going to check continuity from the end of this pin to the end of our jumper wire. Make sure we're good there, and reassemble the connector. So one moment. And welcome back. Well, as you can see, and I'll show you, we've got our connector back in place. We went ahead and, yes, I soldered this additional piece of wire just because the wire was pretty thin. I didn't want to use, you know, crimp connectors. But we went ahead and soldered on this gray wire onto our feeder, or onto our jumper. We got our connector back in place in our BCM, and you can see we just kind of routed our wiring over, around, and behind. And eventually our gray wire makes it up and joins in with our wire that we know is tied into our hood latch out front. Now we'll leave all of this glove box and everything out of here just in case there's an issue and we have to get back in, but it's easy enough to test. Once we get to the point of being able to hook the battery back up, which is coming up shortly, because again, like I said, I'm doing this in tandem with upgrading the lighting system as well. Once we go into alpha AWD and tell the vehicle that it has a hood ajar switch as an option, then we can go in a scan tool and quickly just raise and lower the hood. And as long as the scan tool sees the data change and sees the hood, you know, open and close, then we know that our connection to our pin in there is good to go. That like I said, that connector, it's seated fine. It locked back in place without an issue, so we should be good. But like I said, I don't want to put all this glove box and everything back up here in case we have to tear it back out again. So what I'm going to do with the rest of this unused wiring off this pigtail, we're just going to cut off some pieces of heat shrink them up, pinch the ends, get all this sealed up, and at some point we may use some more of these pass-through wiring, because again, we got a what was it, 5 more strands I think that go under the hood that come back here. But if you remember, there's actually 3 battery positive feeds that come back here that's live all the time, and 3 live only when the ignition key is on feed. So we got quite a few power feeds that would be pretty useful to potentially use in the future. But for now, we're just going to cap it. We're going to get it all fabric taped up, and then we'll move on to the next piece. So I'll bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. So we got everything at least tidied for now. We still have to I'll have to spend some time with this, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and just kind of make sure everything stays secure inside this console. But for now, we've got it set. We got everything tied in. We're ready to finish the lighting at this point. And then once we do the programming to account for the HID lights, we'll also do the programming at the same time to tell the vehicle that A, that it has remote start capabilities, and B, that it does have the hood latch enabled as well. So it should be maybe the next day or so for me, but it'll just be moments for you. So I'll pause you real quick and bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. Well, it's a new day for us. It should be just moments for you. And we're getting ready to do the programming for the remote start feature of this vehicle. So we're in the process of just getting the battery reconnected, because remember we had it disconnected initially to do the lights, but we also have it disconnected because we were unplugging that connector from the BCM in order to add that extra pin. So we've got the hood latch installed, the wiring, the BCM is pinned at this point. But what I want to show you first is that we're going to wake our vehicle back up, and then we're going to go in the scan tool and we're going to look and see if we have a hood ajar PID. Now we shouldn't have the PID because the feature is not enabled in the vehicle yet. So I want to show you that kind of pre and post what it looks like when you turn that setting on and off. But what I want to do is get ready to reattach the battery, get you set up to where you can kind of zoomed in on the scan tool, and then we can go through this. So let me get everything set up here and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So we got the vehicle power reapplied at this point, and hopefully I got you in a good spot. I got you zoned in, trying to find a good spot where it doesn't give a lot of glare. You can still see a little bit of a glare on the screen, but hopefully we can get that taken care of. Hopefully it looks like it's still visible. So what we want to do, I just want to show you that PID at first for the remote start. So we go into Dodge, yes, okay. And we are plugged into our double bypass at this point. So we should have full functionality in that AWD port. Yep, it does see the vehicle, it does VIN the vehicle, so our bypass port is working. And we're not going to unlock the security gateway, and that's fine because we don't need to. Again, we're bypassing it. So what we're going to do is go into the BCM. Now there may be some fault codes in here because we're also doing the lighting upgrade in this as well, and I've got the assemblies unplugged. But if we go into read data stream, and if we search for hood, there should be nothing, which there isn't. That's what I would expect. So what we're going to do is I'm going to back out now, and then the next clip you're going to see us make the adjustments for the remote start, and then we'll come back here and then we'll look for that hood ajar PID. And as long as, like I said, as long as we can open and close the hood and we see that value change, then we know that we're good. So one moment. And welcome back. Well, I've got you zoomed in on the phone as far as I can at this point. And don't worry, we are screen capturing the phone, so provided the screen capture for the phone comes out okay, we'll do what we normally do and we'll strip the audio out of this piece and bundle it with the video from this piece. So you'll get just a screenshot of the phone, but a much clearer one. So we're in Alpha OBD, as you can see here. We're just going to connect to our Bluetooth adapter, which is our MX Plus here. There you go. We are now connected. Now we actually have that adapter plugged into that Z Automotive double bypass, and so far it's working just fine. Now we're in the charger LD setting. The LX setting I think stops at 2010 if I remember correctly. So we want LD, we want body computer, And we have a 2018. Now, there is a 2017 plus power net, but there's actually a 2018, a specific 2018 power net. I'm going to select that one. It seems to work fine, or at least just doing some cursory testing. So if we connect to that, there you go. We are now connected to the body control module. So if we hit the little vehicle down here at the bottom with the hood popped up, now I've already done a backup of the BCM on this vehicle when we were adjusting the settings for the headlight. But that's usually what I like to do first. If there's an option in there, is to grab this pull down, find your backup vehicle config to a file in the list, and just kind of quickly run that. And that way you always have that backup of what it looked like before you made your changes. So in the event that you have to go back and redo something, or verify a setting change, or back something out, then you have what it looked like before and then after, and you can kind of easily see what the two changes were or what you need to adjust. So I'm going to come down into car configuration change. We're going to turn a couple settings on for our remote start. There we go. And then what we want to change as far as the option, the first one is going to be remote start itself. Vehicle config 1, remote start present. I like to minimize my keyboard because I want to see the choices in there. It pops it up, but so we're going to set that to yes. Now if we hit start, it'll come up and tell us the current settings. The current settings is no. Obviously it's not currently enabled. So we're going to change that to yes, and we're going to hit next. And procedure completed. So we told it it's got remote start, but remember, we added the hood latch, so we need to tell the BCM that pin 11 we added earlier in the video has been set up for that. And that should be under like a CBC option, if I remember correctly. Or a config. Let me just search for config. That might be a... what we're looking for is the input. There you go, IO inputs. There we go, that's what we're looking for right there, yeah. CBC config IO connector A, pin 11, hood ajar switch input present. Well, that's a mouthful, isn't it? So we're going to set that to yes, and if we hit start, current config is no, which would make sense because this vehicle didn't have it. It does now. So we're going to hit yes to make that change. And procedure completed. Perfect. So we now have the remote start feature turned on, and we've now told the vehicle to look for its hood pin. Now there's a third step that a lot of individuals sometimes do, which is resetting the RF hub. It's going to be a little bit yet before we can get this vehicle on the road, because one thing that will happen, it does it on the Rams as well. When you do this, it will not take right away. Usually you have to let them sit for 15-20 minutes, take them on a drive cycle, let them set again for another 15-20 minutes, and then generally it'll work fine. Normally what will happen is if you try to hit the remote start a bit early on the key fob, the horn will just beep once and it'll never do anything, and then after you do that initial drive cycle, then it's fine. Let's see, so this is going to set for a little bit yet before we put this vehicle on the road, so I'm not going to reset the RF hub, but just be mindful that, some individuals say they have to do it and some don't. So when I bring you back, I'm going to show you the scan tool again, and I want to show you that we now have that hood ajar PID showing up, and we should be able to see the current status of it. And as long as we can see that the hood is up when it's up and closed when it's closed, then we know that pin and everything that we added yesterday is making good connectivity, and we should be set from that point. So when I bring you back, you'll be looking at the scan tool. So one moment. And welcome back. So you got your zoom back into the scan tool. We've got our dongle plugged into our double bypass, and what we want to see is if we can see that hood ajar option within our body control module now. And once we get connected in here and do our normal identifies, yep, that's our vehicle. Perfect. It's going to ask us to unlock the secure gateway, which we do not need to do because remember, we're in our bypass port, so we have full access to the vehicle anyway. So we want our BCM. And then what we want to do is, like we did before, we're going to read data stream, and this time if we search for, there we go, hood ajar state. Remember, before we did not have that as an option. And it says it's ajar. So if I go and close the hood at this point, it should show up that it's closed. So one moment. Oh, that is perfect. That is beautiful. So you can see it now says not ajar, so that's excellent. That verifies the wiring we put in yesterday, and it verifies the pin. It also obviously verifies that the body control module can see the input from that latch that it needs to see in order to enable the factory remote start. Now, there are other ways that you can do this. It doesn't have to be a hood ajar switch, but in all my videos of doing this across Ram trucks and such, I've never shown that method, and I don't plan to. If you look it up, there are plenty of examples out there that do this, and what they do is rather than use the hood latch, they defeat the system by using a resistor. It's still pin 1 on the body control module, and they do some stuff with an inline resistor, you know, blah, blah, blah. And basically it makes the vehicle think the hood is closed all the time. I don't do that. I don't like doing that for obvious safety reasons, because what could potentially happen is unless you disable the remote start, and either you or someone who may not even know the vehicle can do this is working on it, if they inadvertently hit that remote start button, then you know, obviously bad things are going to happen because the hood's up, somebody's working on it, but yet the vehicle thinks the hood is closed. I don't know. So, and again, that's why I don't do it. It's pretty cheap insurance, in my opinion, just to buy the appropriate hood latch, do the little bit of wiring that you saw, and then we should be good. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to pause you, and then when we bring you back, like I said in the previous clip when we were doing the programming, it's going to be a little bit yet before we can actually drive the vehicle, and this won't finish setting up as far as the settings until we do a drive cycle on the vehicle. Once that's complete, then we should be able to test. But we're going to bring you back, and what we should be able to do is just double click the remote start button on the remote, and the car should beep one time. As long as we get that one beep, we know we're good to go, and it'll just take a drive cycle for it to complete the rest. So I'm gonna pause you, and we'll bring you back in a moment. And welcome back. Well, it's been a few moments for you, but a few days for me, and you can see that we have changed locations and where our car used to sit, or where our project police charger used to sit. We did take it for a little bit of a drive, so to get a drive cycle in, and it was actually the first real road test we did since we've got it from auction, and so far so good. Nothing major, at least currently mechanical related to it. Now we're going to try the remote start now that it's had a drive cycle, and it may or may not work. It may not work because it does set a code for that faulty MDS solenoid, which causes the check engine light to come on. And if that check engine light comes on, then it actually won't allow the remote start. And unfortunately, when it checks that solenoid circuit, it does so right as you turn the ignition on. But we went ahead and cleared the codes after a drive cycle, so it may attempt to do something here, or it may not. You may just see it flash the lights, but yeah, we'll give it a shot. Oh, sounds good. Perfect. That is beautiful. Well, that actually worked out okay. So what we actually did was we cleared the codes on this after doing the drive cycle. Now I'm surprised it hasn't killed it yet, because normally once it sets that code, generally it'll stop. But as you can hear, it does work just fine. So that means all that time we did pinning the BCM, you can see there that it does say that the remote start is active. Push the start button. So what we can do is that we can come in here, push our start button. We now take control of the vehicle at this point, and in order to kill it, we could just turn it off like we would anything else. There we go. We just hit the ignition again. So awesome. So it actually is working exactly how we wanted it to. So all that work that we did as far as getting that wiring in and adding the extra pin to the BCM and doing the changes to alpha AWD, as you can see, has actually enabled it. So we now have a full factory remote start in this vehicle. So with that being said, I will let you go. I'll bring you back on the next one. And what we're going to be doing on the next one, a little bit of a heads up, is that we did get a unlocked ECU from Diablo Sport, so it'll allow us to tune this vehicle. So what we'll be doing next is actually going through the process of getting that ECU swapped out, doing some testing, and kind of going on from there. So I believe that'll be the next one. So it'll be interesting because we actually got to take this cowl out, get the windshield wiper arms out of here, get the cowl out of here, because it's actually over there on the passenger side if you're unfamiliar with the Chargers and Challengers. So we'll get that swapped, we'll get that updated, and that will actually allow us to disable the MDS on here, which should negate that check engine light coming on again, because it's actually just going to disable those MDS solenoid circuits in prep for when we finally do the 6.4 liter engine swap. Then we'll do a full-on MDS delete at that point. But you know, I'm rambling at this point. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But as you saw, the wiring works, hood latch obviously works, and the programming is good to go. So once we had that drive cycle in, got that complete, you can see that finally was the last bit we needed to get it to enable the factory remote start again off the fobs. So that being said, I'll let you go, and I'll bring you back for the next one. Thank you much. Bye.